Congresswoman, thank you so much for taking a moment.
It's always wonderful to be with you.
It's great to have you with us. Congresswoman, what prompted you to introduce the 7th Amendment Restoration Act, and what specific issues are you hoping to address with this?
And what has happened over time is these administrative law judges or administrative law courts are being used more often by a variety of federal agencies. The SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, is one of the worst. And ALJs are essentially their own agency's judges, and they are not Article III judges. They're created, they've been created by Congress, the administrative law courts, but what happens is that when the SEC, for example, brings an enforcement action against someone, they often try to bring it in front of their own tribunal, the ALJs. And what that does is that essentially strips that individual of many of their constitutional rights, including the right to a jury trial. So what we have done is we have introduced a bill that to the extent that the SEC, for example, brings an administrative action against you, you could actually remove that case to an Article III judge. Why that's important is because these agencies, the SEC again, they have about a 95% success rate in front of their own ALJs. They're all wearing the same jersey. They're on the same team. Whereas in front of the courts, they're about 60 to 65% successful. So what we know is that these ALJs are ruling in favor of the agencies much more often than an Article III judge would, which in my opinion is a violation of due process under the Fifth Amendment and just, again, the right to a trial by jury. So what my bill does is says you can remove to an Article III judge when you're sued by an agency that has an ALJ.
So right now we're hearing a lot of discussion about the Department of Government efficiency,
Yes.
causing a bit of a stir. Talk to us about, try to take out some of the subjectivity from both sides. And when it comes to, you hear the president as well as Elon talking about, the unelected bureaucracy.
We talk about the unelected bureaucracy a lot, and where it really came into being was during the Roosevelt administration. We all know that, and it is creating the expert class was the idea that we need to have these experts who are making decisions to run our government. That's really not the form of government that our forefathers gave us. If you look at Article 1, that's the article that describes the legislative branch. That's Congress. Article 2 is the executive branch, and Article 3 is the judiciary. But what you see when we talk about unelected bureaucrats is we have millions of people who now work for these administrative agencies, and there's almost no accountability. I have to run for election every 2 years. I have to be back in Wyoming meeting with my constituents, holding town halls, and actually solving problems. But who knows who is in the third branch of the USDA? Who knows who is in all of these, the EPA? They don't have any accountability whatsoever. What DOGE is doing, and why I'm so surprised that there's much controversy surrounding it at all, is they're simply exposing the way in which these agencies have been spending our money. And I think that it was a brilliant idea to start with USAID and show to the American people that when their tax money is being taken out of their pocket, a lot of it is going to things that they never, ever, ever would have supported. And so I look at this as a good governance effort. This is an effort to right-size our government. This is an effort at transparency. But the other thing it is, for me, it's almost the only way we're ever going to get zero-based budgeting in the federal government. And what I mean by that is going back and looking line by line by line, what are these agencies spending our money on, and saying, we don't want to spend our money on that. We want to spend money on, addressing education deficiencies in inner city Philadelphia. Why are we sending money for sex change operations in Guatemala? It doesn't make sense. And so really what DOGE has done and what the president is trying to do is expose what has become the fourth branch of government.
Talk to us, Congresswoman. You mentioned the budget. It's looming right now.
Yes.
How do you see this progressing?
So I think that we often talk about the fact that we have a very slim majority in the House. But from my standpoint, it's still a majority, and we need to act like it. So I believe that this next week we are going to be putting a budget on the table. We're going to be voting on it so that we can then move to the next stage, which is reconciliation, where we can start addressing actual government reform in the way that we budget, what we are, again, spending our money on. What I look, again, at DOGE and with Elon Musk and his team, team going through these agencies and looking at what they're spending their money on item by item. I want him to identify those programs that none of us want to spend money on. And then I want Congress to pass a bill saying every one of these agencies will have their budgets reduced by the X amount that has been identified by DOGE, and they're not allowed to do these programs. To the extent some of these programs need to be done, maybe they ought to be done at the state level, maybe they ought to be done in the private sector, but I don't see why the federal government has become as big as it has, as expensive as it has, and why we would want that anyway.
Congresswoman Harriet Hageman, thank you so much.
Thank you.